Alright, let's cut to the chase. You all knew this video was coming, where I finally can sit down and talk about my latest, greatest, and absolutely craziest animation yet, One Crab's Trash, over on my YouTube channel, Brick Bob Films. This was just a completely bonkers episode that I definitely went a little bit maybe too far with, but at the same time, I couldn't imagine it being any different at all. Also, you may have realized I am filming with a new camera. Well, that is because I decided to finally put my money down and invest a bit into this director's commentary talking head series where I just go over work that I've done. I had such a fun time making the first 3 videos, and I was a bit disappointed with the quality of my most recent director's commentary. The first 2 director's commentaries I made, I was actually borrowing a camera, but ultimately after some schedule changes, I just wasn't able to borrow it for future director's commentary videos, and I was without a camera for a little bit. In 2024, I filmed those 2 behind the scenes videos using my old Canon EOS Rebel T5i, which is a great little camera, but oh boy, the video quality, no. And my most recent director's commentary was filmed using a Panasonic, which was a hand-me-down, which once again, nice little camera, but not quite hitting the video quality standards that we have in the big 2025. At the time of recording this, it has been over a month since my last director's commentary, and it was purely because I just didn't have a suitable camera that could meet the quality standards that I really desire for the series. I want these videos to have good longevity, and I want all of you watching to be able to see the best quality possible with the budget that I have, so I hope that you enjoy this little quality upgrade. That being said, these videos would not be possible if it wasn't for you, and I want to take this opportunity to say that if you want to help fund and improve the quality of my videos going forward, please check out my Patreon. I would absolutely like to hire editors more frequently at some point. As you all know, animating takes so much time as is, and having some extra people to help me get these director's commentary videos out more often would be a true lifesaver. But in the meantime, I wanted to invest a bit in this show, being what it is so far, try and make it better, and without further ado, sit back, relax, and enjoy the rest of the video. Also leave a like, that really helps, apparently. So for those of you who have seen me talk about Lego SpongeBob Krusty Towers, or just seen the video in general, you would all know that that was my formal big return to Brick Bob Films after a pretty big hiatus. I tried a whole bunch of new techniques for that episode, and I was really happy with the end result, but then again, it was kind of a warm-up. I was testing a ton of new techniques during the making of that video, and in a lot of ways it really feels like I was trying to get used to the process of making an episode of Brick Bob Films in general. I had new equipment to work with, new techniques, new editing softwares, and just kind of getting back into the groove of things and shaking off the rust. But after I made Krusty Towers, I thought, okay, I want to make an episode where I can go way beyond. Now that I've gotten a little bit warmed up, I want to do something that's way crazier, that kind of pushes me out of my comfort zone. And ultimately, I landed on One Crab's Trash. It's not really an episode talked about much today. I think it's really overlooked. It's not like a hidden gem, but it is a good episode of SpongeBob. And I looked at it and saw potential. From the script and the plot of the episode, I saw a lot of potential for things that I would want to try. I wanted to get more creative and experimental with the lighting, and I wanted to take a few creative liberties, particularly with the fight sequence, and I was also lucky enough to recruit an Instagram and TikTok comedian to come on as a guest voice actor, which is something that I want to do with more of my YouTube films going forward. And over the course of 40 plus hours, probably close to a good 60 hours of work, I made this video possible, but I'll get into the exact time figure later. In the meantime, I think that we just gotta jump into it and commence with this revisiting. Also, I am currently going to be watching the episode on my old computer because my 9-month-old MacBook Pro that I've been using so far this year, the motherboard self-destructed on me. So, yeah, that's really great. This is why you keep your old equipment.
Ah, a yard sale. You know the old saying, one man's trash is another man's treasure. Disposable? Phooey. For Mr. Krabs, all trash is treasure. Open for business.
We're already seeing an evolution of what I did in LEGO SpongeBob Krusty Towers. During production of Krusty Towers, I purchased a brand new iPad, which I actually have right here. Yes, here it is. I'm definitely in denial about the fact that I am an Apple fanboy, because their stuff is good when it's, you know, not blowing up on you after 9 months. I purchased this 13-inch M3 chip iPad Air. I wanted to have a tool where I could instantly create 2D animations, animatics, etc. And I gotta say that having an on-deck drawing tablet has been a huge lifesaver. When I was a little kid and I was making episodes of Brick Bob Films, the only thing that I had to work with was this really crude Microsoft Paint level tool, probably not even that, where you could just kind of doodle on images, the JPEG images, as you captured them in the program. It was a tool that I actually ended up growing very fond of, especially during the 2016 era of Brick Bob Films, but ultimately it, does not look good and is not professional. But whenever I had to convey some kind of information in great detail, which is something that the original SpongeBob SquarePants show does all the time, I just would have no idea what to do. So sometimes I would just photograph my computer screen with my webcam and it just looked horrible. But no, ever since getting this iPad Air, any single thing that I need, whether it's a static 2D art background or if I need to do a really quick 2D animation, I can very easily just do that right here on my iPad in Procreate or Procreate Dreams. That's what I'm using right now, at least. It's not a subscription, you just buy it once and then there you go. And as you can see from this video, I am already getting my money's worth.
This hat was made for you, boy. You were born to wear this hat. A perfect fit, eh, son?
Oh, thank you, Mr. Krabs. Thank you for bringing us together. How can I ever repay you?
With $10.
All I have is 5.
Well, then I guess it's no deal.
I'll be right back.
So, while filming this dialogue sequence, I don't think I was really noticing until way later the depth of field when it came to the focus. What I mean by that is basically the amount of blur that there is in the backdrop. This whole dialogue sequence has a very blurry backdrop, which kind of gives it like a cinematic feel. That's something that usually films do. But it wasn't until I was way later into production of this episode when I started to really notice it, and I wasn't too sure how I felt about it. Ultimately, I decided that I do like having a greater depth of field when filming Brick Bob Films. That's just my own personal taste. I just kind of think that the blurry backdrop is a little bit too cinematic for what this is. So if I were to show you my camera here, I'm probably disturbing the wire a little bit. My little Rebel T7 over here and my vintage Nikon lens. Let me see if I can just take this off really quick, because I figure if I'm talking about depth of field, I might as well show you what my lens aperture looks like. So lately, whenever I film an episode of Brick Bob Films, whenever I am shooting in stop motion, I have a wide depth of field, as wide as possible. And that look is achieved by closing the aperture rings as much as I can. Wonder if you can even see that. Yes. Okay, wait, that's way better. All right, there you go. So whenever you have the aperture ring opened a lot, you get that blurry background and that really strong focus on the subject. But when you close it a lot, you get that way bigger depth of field, which allows more of the environment to be in focus. This is what I prefer. However, since I am alternating between videography and stop motion for making these videos, that means that I am alternating between a 1+ second shutter speed when doing stop motion and a 50th of a second shutter speed when filming the videography portions. I know I'm probably going way over everyone's head, but it's okay. That's why we're here. We're here to learn together. So the reason I can have it closed a lot when filming stop motion animation is because I allow the camera to expose the frame for over a second. This allows plenty of time for light to be let into the sensor and just expose the picture in light. However, when I do videography, the shutter speed is less than a second, considerably less. For instance, mine is at a 50th of a second, I believe. So that means that there is way less opportunity for light to enter the sensor. So consequentially, I have to open that aperture ring as much as possible to let more light into the sensor, but it also gives us that blurry background look. Please support me on Patreon. I would very much like to try filming my animations with different kinds of lenses that could possibly correct this issue. The only problem is lenses are often just as, if not more expensive than the camera themselves, and I just don't really have that in my budget right now. Holy moly, I just talked about these dialogue sequences for an absolute eternity. This is gonna be a doozy.
Man, was I using mine wrong? How much? $5. I only got 7. Deal.
I don't even have anything to say. I just love that joke so much. Yeah, like for this shot in particular with Mr. Krabs and SpongeBob next to each other, the background is so blurry, even though it's in stop motion animation. This is something that I am currently not doing while filming BrickBob Films. This is something that I've noticed and corrected. Like I said, I just wasn't really noticing this even before, but once you do notice it in hindsight, then you're like, oh yeah, do I even like that? And you know, I start making deliberate choices surrounding that kind of look. But aside from the blur, it's just like, I just love what this show has evolved into now. It's so much more visually pleasing than it used to be. From my humble beginnings to my weird teenage years to my early Dragon Frame 2019 Lego SpongeBob BrickBob film years. And now coming here, seeing the colors, seeing the light, seeing the color grading and just all of that stuff. Oh, it's so good.
Sir, I'll give you $1 million for that hat. There he is with me $1 million hat.
Yeah, I love the 2D effects. I love how easy I can do that now with my iPad. In case any of you guys are wondering, the way I do these two-dimensional effects is literally just me drawing them right up in Procreate Dreams, exporting the frames as images, uploading them to a cloud service, opening it on my PC, and then immediately exporting the frames as an image sequence into Adobe Premiere. That's all I do. It's a few steps, but like this is not something that you could do in the 80s. Like the animators that I grew up watching, they had to do so much like annoying stuff just to view what they were looking at. And I'm like, meanwhile, I live in an age where I can do this in just a few minutes, and I just think that's amazing, and So grateful to the animation gods up there.
Not after all we've been through. Thanks, Mr. Krabs. I'll call you Hattie. And that's when you showed up.
Oh, forget it. And you're not beautiful either.
I'm not.
I just love that of all the Lego SpongeBob figures, SpongeBob's the only one that has a ton of options for what his face can even look like. Meanwhile, you have characters like Mr. Krabs, where it's like, you know, Mr. Krabs, you can either have him smiling or smiling even bigger. It's the exact same thing with Plankton. It's like you can have him smiling or smiling slightly more sinister. And then you have someone like Squidward where he just has this face clearly because of the head mold, which I'm perfectly fine with. I don't think he has to have any other faces. I think this one kind of works. But yeah, it's just like Patrick does have more faces technically. It's just the thing is, they're all really weird and very situational. It's like you have the smiling one, which you see like 100% of the time. Then you have Patrick with chocolate on his face. And then you have Spacesuit Patrick and Superhero Patrick. It's like, when the heck am I supposed to use most of these? Mr. Krabs in particular is always kind of ornery. So I just don't know why him of all characters, you have this like neutral baby looking face and then this kind of creepy smile face. It's so weird. Oh, also, I just remembered, you may notice that in this video, Mr. Krabs has gray hands. Well, these figures, on the other hand, have red hands. Yeah, come on, can we get a little focus? There you go. So while I was posting behind the scenes for this episode, like while I was still working on it, my sister messaged me and was like, dude, I can't stand that Mr. Krabs has gray hands. And I was just like, oh yeah, he does have gray hands. I've even gotten YouTube comments saying, why does Mr. Krabs have gray hands? And it's because that's what color his hands are in all of the official sets. Like, that is accurate to how he looks in the official Lego figure design. So yeah, I just kind of grew numb to the fact that he has gray hands in all these Lego SpongeBob videos. But no, after filming this episode, I was officially like, okay, it is time to retire the gray hands and make it look like it really should. It's just the weirdest thing. I kind of noticed this. Like I said, my sister told me that after I already was like almost done filming this episode. And I was just like, you know what? I'm going to finish it with gray hands, but from this point forward, I am switching to red hands.
I didn't want to do this, but he leaves me no other option. I'm gonna have to scare it off of him.
Oh. Oh. Oh.
This'll scare him.
Oh my gosh. Okay, so this is the kind of stuff that I was looking forward to talking about aside from the fight. So, one of the reasons that I chose to do this episode was because half of the episode takes place at nighttime, and I wanted to satisfy that little voice in my head that constantly reminds me, Lorenzo, for most of your life, you did not know how to do nighttime lighting in any of your animations. I have definitely talked about this in some of my other director's commentaries, but I will talk about it forever and ever. Lighting is so important, and I just did not appreciate how important it was for the longest time. I have so many animated projects, animated films, where the lighting just could have been so much better had I just tweaked it a little bit. Like, compare this shot, just this shot right here, to another episode of Lego SpongeBob that I did in 2019, Sandy's Rocket. Compare this to this. The lighting is so horrible in Sandy's rocket that you can barely tell what is happening on screen. You probably can't even watch it in broad daylight. And compare that to this. You have the cooler blue on the left side and the shine on Squidward's house. It's just, oh my God. I really wanted to prove to myself that, okay, Lorenzo, this time we are going to show everybody that you learned how to do nighttime lighting the right way. And there's another example of thematic lighting from the transition from the calm blue lighting to the spooky green lighting when Mr. Krabs' ghost appears.
Oh my gosh! A floating shopping list! Ah!
I'm not a shopping list. I'm a ghost.
Okay, so obviously this whole sequence is done in live action. I'm holding it with my hand, the little fishing line. But when it came time to do that switch, pull out the shopping list and put in the ghost, I wasn't able to achieve that all in one take because the paper, as you can see, is larger than the window. So as you can see in this shot, I was holding the paper by a pair of tweezers and I pulled it out, and then I put the tweezers back in and I gripped the paper ghost, and then I pulled him out, and what I did was I cut the footage in half and reversed the second half in post-production. This is something that I try to never do because I don't want the audience to see that the video was spliced in the middle of the shot. So I took a risk and I just tried to make it work. I tried to be very careful, and after stitching them together and reversing the second half of the footage in post-production and just reviewing it, it's so smooth that it's really unnoticeable and seamless and just so much fun. Also, I would like to mention that usually when I'm filming an episode of Brick Bob Films, I kind of have a quota of how many frames I'd like to get in a day, which is usually about 2,000. And this whole dialogue sequence was done using the videography, and that was absolutely fine with me. I got through a good minute of audio just doing videography. And the footage looks really good. Like I was really nervous the first time I did this videography thing in Brick Bob Films, but no, it looks good. It's like kind of cute. I don't know, it just kind of adds visual variety to the show.
Smitty Werben Jaegerman Jensen.
What? There is no Smitty Werben Jaegerman Jensen.
Well, sure there is. He's buried out in Floater's cemetery.
How did you... Give me that shovel.
It was his hat, Mr. Krabs. He was number one.
Oh, I love this shot right here. I mean, just having this transition right here, you know, you go from the cool blue lighting night backdrop, and then you transition over to this shot where you have dark shadows and then the harsh green lighting in the foreground. It's just, it's so much fun to just kind of paint a picture using photos and light and objects.
Huh? What? Hold yourself together, Krabs. It's just a boneyard filled with bones.
Yeah, this particular shot of the graveyard right here, you can see that I caught on to capturing a greater depth of field with my lens focus. Like, this could have been completely blurry, but at this point I kind of wised up.
Nope. 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 No. Nope. Nuh-uh. Nope. 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 Not there. I've checked every headstone in this cemetery, and there's no Smitty what a blobber buried here. Think, Krabs. Maybe something SpongeBob said will give you some type of clue.
Remember, licking doorknobs is illegal on other planets.
No. Not that.
You'll never guess what I found in my sock last night. Go ahead, guess.
No.
Okay, so there's a lot going on in this shot here, but it's actually not quite as complex as you might think. So I filmed Mr. Krabs on his own, and then I created a dream cloud in Procreate Dreams. Haha, very funny, dreams. And then all I did was I put in the cloud animation over the footage of Mr. Krabs, put the footage of SpongeBob over the cloud animation, and then I just feathered off the edges of the footage of SpongeBob, and it looked very, very seamless. The effect just turned out so well. Okay, so there's actually a really annoying blemish on my entire footage that you probably have not noticed, but I notice it. I'm not going to talk about it right now because it is not super noticeable, but trust me, later in the video, it will be noticeable, and when I tell you about it, you will never be able to unknow this information. Also, remember to leave a like. Hope you're enjoying the video so far. Let's keep going.
Back off! Back off, I say!
Attack!
Hee-yaw!
Oh boy. Okay, the moment we've all been waiting for, the fight sequence. Oh my god, I don't even know if I'm mentally prepared to talk about everything going into this. I've been recording forever already, but you know what? We have to do this now. Also, I would like to mention to you all that it was around this point in production when my buddy introduced me to this app where you could kind of track your work hours. And it was at this point where I began tracking my hours. From this point forward, there was a remaining 40 hours of work that I had to do to complete this video. 40 hours to complete a remaining, 3 minutes of video? Oh my god. 40 hours for 3 minutes of videos in YouTube in 2025. I'm insane. This is why you have to be a little bit mad to be an animator. But you know what? I couldn't imagine it being any other way. All right, let's get into this. Oh boy.
Tally-ho!
Okay, so little fun fact, this shot of Mr. Krabs jumping was actually the very final thing that I recorded in the entire video. I initially recorded this being videography, so he was just kind of suspended in the air by a little stick that I was holding, but it looked so bad that I thought, no, I have to make this look more epic and do the rest of the fight justice. So I just set everything up on my desk and attached my camera to my Manfrotto 410 gear junior head where I could really kind of follow Mr. Krabs as he does that fancy flip. It was just so much work, but god, that is a nice looking shot.
Tally-ho!
So when I went into making this episode, I could very well have just imitated what they did in the original episode. This fight is very short. There's only a few shots and it's really not complex at all. But for the longest time, I've had this in my head for a really long time. I have wanted to do a large, elaborate fight sequence where one character fights a whole army of foes. And I needed the opportunity, I needed the inspiration to act upon it. And ultimately, when I set out to make this episode, I thought, man, this fight sequence between Mr. Krabs and the army of the living dead, this has a lot of potential. So I thought, okay, why not try and make this as over the top and ridiculous and epic as possible? So before I filmed any of this, I thought, okay, if it's really going to be epic, we're going to have him fight this entire army, we need to have a plan. Normally, when I film my animations, I do it kind of more or less spontaneous. I'll have like an idea of what I want to capture in my head, but I kind of make up certain things like choreography, shot composition as I go along for stuff like this where I have a lot of footage to get through. But for this fight, I spent a whole day just sitting in front of my iPad and creating an animatic before I filmed anything. So the way my brain kind of works is I'm a very audio kind of person. So the first step that I did was I found a song that I could license to go along with this fight sequence. So I found a song that I liked, and then I played the song in the background, and I just started visualizing the whole fight, step by step, beat by beat, phase by phase, and build up to a climactic finish. So with the song playing, I just sat down and started drawing on my iPad an animatic, seeing, okay, where is this fight going to go? How is it going to build? How is Mr. Krabs going to interact with each individual one of these zombies and skeletons? How's it going to happen? I knew that I wanted to have a dynamic camera for this fight. I wanted it to feel not so static. When it comes to independent stop motion animation, there's usually not very much camera movement, or it's very limited because, you know, as an independent, a lot of us don't have like a huge expensive rig to work with. But for the sake of this video, I had just purchased a Manfrotto 410 geared junior head. This head is such a dream come true if you're an independent stop motion animator and you just want to get a little bit of dynamic camera movements in your shots. That is what I used to film these shots. So all of the camera movements that you see are being done by hand, but they are being done by hand with a very good quality of life tool. If you are an independent stop motion creator like me, I very, very, very much recommend looking into this head.
Look at me, I'm Errol Flynn. You're falling apart, Marrow Brain! You must be kidding.
So the second phase, I knew ahead of time I wanted to have this Mr. Krabs surrounded by a huge horde of zombies, almost like he's being surrounded and he has to punch all of them out one by one. Once again, I listened to the song over and over and over because I just really relate things to music sometimes, particularly with filmmaking. And I had all these very deliberate, very specific scenarios in my head for what would happen at each individual part of the song. And of course, we then transition into the most climactic part of the fight against the two giant zombies. I knew that I wanted to have Mr. Krabs fight two large foes just to kind of have a more satisfying end to the fight, because we've spent the whole time watching him fight all these zombies his size, and I just really wanted to do something to drive home that Mr. Krabs is a powerful force to be reckoned with.
Oh, how's your sister? Back to oblivion!
Now let me ask you guys something. Does any of this fight look familiar to you? Well, here's a funny little surprise for all of you. The biggest inspiration for this fight was the first episode of the One Punch Man anime. For you anime fans out there, you may recall that at the end of episode 1, there is a scene where Saitama fights a huge horde of foreboding foes, and it is just so spectacular. It's very over the top. There's all this dynamic movement and camera changes, and there's this one particular shot where Saitama is just fighting all these giant subterranean creatures, and he knocks one of them out to the left side of the screen and one to the right, one on each side, one goes up, and then a huge foe comes in. That whole sequence was the inspiration for the second and third phase of this fight in particular. I'll never forget watching that for the first time in like 2020 and thinking, someday I'm going to make something along the lines of this, and here it is. Even the part where Mr. Krabs is floating in the air and fighting the two giant zombies, that is a direct callback to when Saitama is suspended in midair in fighting those colossal subterranean creatures and just knocking them out of the park with one punch. And it's just, it's so magical. You know, it's really funny because this being stop motion animation, Mr. Krabs needs to be suspended in midair by a rig, a whole rig, and the rig needs to be completely edited out in post. And I just remember I was doing so many frames with rigs in this fight sequence and thinking to myself, Lorenzo, you have to edit all of this out later. You are going to regret this, but I just couldn't stop myself. I was seeing red. I just had to finish this fight exactly as I imagined it.
All right, boneheads. Playtime's over! Yeehaw!
This shot of him running towards the zombie is very complex, but let's break it down. I'm just going to slow down the footage here so I can go through it bit by bit. God, even at 0.25 times speed, it's like pretty quick. There's a lot happening here. So Mr. Krabs starts running. The geared tripod head is panning along with him. And then we kind of angle up. I am manually zooming in the lens just a little bit, very small increments, trying to make it last as long as possible. Then we have the throw, so the lens is zooming in, but then I ran out of how much I could zoom in. I think that's 105 millimeters. Okay, so I was at 105 millimeters on my Nikon Nikkor lens. So to continue the illusion that there was zoom happening, I didn't want to do it in post-production. I wanted to do it on camera. I instead started shifting the green Lego board towards the camera. The zombie starts moving towards us, but the background is more or less stationary. And then just as Mr. Krabs goes underneath, I wasn't able to move the board any closer to the camera. So what I did as a last resort to maintain that momentum was I started shifting the lens's focus beyond the zombie. So as you can see, just as he's going underneath the legs, the focus starts to go past the zombie. And that ends the shot, this continuous shot of Mr. Krabs fighting these zombies. I don't know exactly how many days it took me to film this. Okay, so this is just shy of a 30-second shot. It feels like an eternity, but just like, oh my god, that whole shot, there was just so much going on. So many camera changes and shifts, and Mr. Krabs is doing so many things. Okay, so now it is time to talk about this blemish that I mentioned earlier. I don't even know what to call this. It's not really a mistake as much as it is just wow, that sucks. Okay, what does that even mean? All right, let me just backpedal a bit here. So you will notice that in this shot with Mr. Krabs climbing up the zombie, everything is well in the world, there are a few, about 5 or 6, very distinct dark spots in the frame over on the left side. They're kind of hard to see, but they are there. And they move along with the camera movements, which means it is something that is, in fact, on the camera or lens. This was something that I did not notice until I was around this point in filming the fight. And when I saw it, I was pretty upset. I was just like, what on earth? What's causing this? I thoroughly looked at my lens and inspected it for any sort of debris, but I just could not find anything to really shake out, and it was driving me crazy. I mean, obviously I couldn't go back and refilm anything because I was way too far in at this point, but you will also notice that even way earlier in the video, these distinct dark spots are visible in certain lighting. I was just racking my head thinking what could possibly be wrong with my camera that is causing these dark spots. And it turned out the reason that these dark spots were there was not because of the lens, it was because of the camera body itself. It turned out that there was a little bit of dust that had accumulated on the sensor of my Rebel T7, which was causing these dark spots to appear. My old Rebel T5i, which I used to film projects with back in the day, that had a sensor cleaning thing, which I think just kind of like vibrates the sensor or something. I'm not entirely sure how it works. But my Rebel T7 doesn't have that, and I've been shooting with it for over a year. So it turned out that some debris had accumulated on the sensor, which was causing these dark spots. And once I found out, I was like, oh my God, what do I do? Well, it turns out you can get a sensor cleaning kit, which is ultimately what I did, and it corrected my issue like a dream. Actually, I kind of have it right here. I just ordered one of these on Amazon, just comes with a couple swabs. You put some solution on the tip, you run it along the sensor very gently, and it cleaned up my issue very quick. I'm definitely going to be needing these in the future for future cleanings, but in the meantime, it's also made me more wary about not getting any debris in my camera or lens. Not that I was being irresponsible with it like to begin with, but this whole experience just made me more aware of having to do this kind of maintenance on a camera. This whole issue is not really germane to the episode production itself. It's just one of those little things that you kind of have to learn the hard way. I wanted to tell you guys about it so you don't make my mistake. If you are doing photography and you're noticing some of these dark spots, just know, check your lens, but also check your sensor.
Yee-haw! $1 million! I got $1 million!
Originally, when I set out to film this fight, I was planning on having a final duel between Mr. Krabs and Smitty, but at that point, I definitely gave myself a reality check and thought this fight has gone long enough and we have to just end it. So I still brought Smitty just up at the end just for a brief appearance, but sorry, Smitty, you do not get to have one final duel with Mr. Krabs. It's just too much. Oh man. And that's it, really. I really don't know what to say. This was such an exciting, so exhausting episode to make. I don't think I would do this again if I had to, but I did it once again. That's the thing. It's just when you're in the thick of it, you gotta fulfill your vision. You just gotta do it. I don't even know what to say about this episode. This episode had no business being as over the top and having this fight sequence in the first place, but it was just one of those things where I was like, let's try and do something that will, that the viewers will really remember. Something to wow people. Something to get everyone talking in the comments. I think back to when I made Survival of the Idiots back in 2021, and people always just commented talking about how much they loved the over-the-top fight sequence between SpongeBob Patrick and Hibernation Sandy, and I wanted to recapture some of that magic. But more importantly, I wanted to follow the theme of trying to push me out of my comfort zone in relation to my filmmaking. I always do say that I always try and learn something new every time I make an episode. I just want to try and do something that reminds me that I'm still learning, that I'm not getting too complacent. I always want to push and learn new things and implement new techniques, because that makes it so exciting. And it can be difficult trying to do that when maintaining an upload schedule, but all of you guys are always so understanding and appreciative of the extra hard work, and it just motivates me to keep pushing and keep trying to do something new and exciting and put it into my videos and share it with you guys. I would say that the production time of this episode doubled because of this fight sequence. And keep in mind, I only started tracking my hours when I started conceptualizing the fight sequence, and I clocked in 40 hours of work, which means that this episode took way more than 40 hours. Would I do this again? I don't think so. It was just so much, but I did it. People always say that to do stop motion animation, you must have so much patience, and I always think, oh no, it doesn't take patience. You just love doing it. And every single time I'm working on an animation, I'm so invested. But I do notice that when I look back on animations that I've completed, I say to myself, God, Lorenzo, how did you have the patience to even do that? And I don't know if it's just too soon, but this episode was so daunting, but it's done, and now it can be enjoyed forever. Thank you all so much for watching and coming with me on this journey in revisiting my animations. I am very much looking forward to talking about more projects very soon. And please, just another reminder, check out my Patreon if you want to support me directly. I would very much like to get more videos like this out to you guys more often and more steadily. Until next time, have a wonderful day, everybody. This is your neighborhood Lorenzo, signing off. Also, remember to check out the Patreon. I need new batteries for my camera.